My wife, the lawyer, slammed the gavel at the courtroom and said, "You're done here." Later that evening, she came home and said, "I want a divorce." I replied, "You won't get away with this." The next day, her biggest client dropped her and the law firm lost millions. When I first met Jessica, she was a force of nature. A top lawyer, known for her sharp mind, determination, and unmatched skill in the courtroom. We were both young, ambitious, and full of dreams, but she was always the one who stood out in a crowd. Her success was part of what drew me to her, and for a long time, I was content to be by her side as she climbed the ladder of success. She worked tirelessly, building her career with the same dedication and passion she brought to everything in her life. And I supported her in every way I could, proud of the woman she was becoming. But I never thought it would come to this. The evening it all fell apart started like any other. I'd been waiting for her at home, preparing dinner, our usual routine after a long day. She had a big case that week, something that had the potential to make her career even bigger than it already was. Her firm had been under intense pressure from a high-profile client, a company that had some very deep pockets, and they needed Jessica's expertise. The stakes were high, but I knew she could handle it. She always did. When she walked through the door that evening, she didn't look like herself. There was a tension in her posture, something in her eyes that wasn't there before. I could tell immediately that something was wrong. The confident, collected woman I was used to seeing was gone. Her face was drawn, her eyes tired, and she was holding herself stiffly, like she was trying to keep something buried deep inside. "Jess," I asked, watching her carefully, "what happened? Is everything okay?" She didn't respond at first, just set her briefcase down with a heavy thud on the counter. I could hear her breathing more heavily than usual, and when she finally turned to face me, her expression was unreadable. "It's over," she said, her voice steady but devoid of emotion. "What's over?" I asked, standing up, now more concerned. Was it the case? Did she lose? I had never seen her like this. Jessica was a fighter, someone who never backed down, someone who always found a way to win. But now she was standing there, almost defeated, like a weight was pressing down on her. "The case? I lost it," she said, her eyes meeting mine for a brief moment before quickly dropping. "I lost the client and I'm done." I frowned, my mind racing. "What do you mean? You're done? How could you lose that case? You've been preparing for it for months. You're the best, Jess. You're the best lawyer I know." She shook her head slowly, as if she were trying to convince herself of something. "I don't know what happened. It doesn't matter now. The client's gone and the firm's losing millions because of it." My heart sank as the gravity of her words began to settle in. I knew how important this case was to her career, to her reputation. It was more than just a job for Jessica, it was her passion. But what was happening now? Why was she acting like this? She had always been the epitome of control, the person who would find a way out of any situation, no matter how dire. But now, she was standing there, defeated. She let out a long breath, her face pinched with frustration. "It's all falling apart. The client pulled out. The firm is losing everything, and there's nothing I can do about it. I tried to save it, but it wasn't enough." I stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Jess, we'll figure this out. It's just one case. You'll bounce back, you always do." But she stepped back, her eyes narrowing. "No, you don't get it," she said, her voice suddenly cold, like a wall had gone up between us. "I'm done with all of it. I'm done with the firm. I'm done with this life. And I'm done with us." I froze, staring at her in disbelief. "What are you talking about? What do you mean, done with us?" She looked at me, her face suddenly hard, as if the woman I had spent so many years with had vanished. The warmth in her eyes was gone, replaced with something cold and distant. "I want a divorce," she said, her words like a slap in the face. The world around me seemed to stop. My heart raced in my chest, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. Divorce? What was she saying? We had built a life together, a home, a future. And now, in the blink of an eye, it was all slipping away. I thought I had heard her wrong, but when I saw the determination in her eyes, I realized it was true. She wasn't just upset about the case. This was something deeper, something that had been brewing beneath the surface for a long time. I opened my mouth to speak, but the words caught in my throat. I didn't know what to say. How could she just give up on us, after everything we had been through together? "Jessica, no, we can work through this. We've been through so much already. I know things have been hard, but this isn't the answer," I pleaded, stepping closer to her, reaching out for her hand. "You're just upset about the case. It's a setback, not the end." But she pulled away from me, the coldness in her eyes hardening even more. "It's not just the case, it's everything. I've been living for this career, for this firm, for years, and now it's all falling apart. I can't keep pretending that I'm happy, that I'm still the person I used to be. I've been so focused on being successful that I forgot who I was, and I forgot who you were to me. And now, I don't think I can fix it." I stood there in stunned silence, not knowing how to process what she was saying. Her words hit me like a freight train, knocking the breath out of me. Was this really happening? Was the woman I had loved for so long really telling me that she wanted to walk away from everything? From me? "Jess, please," I said, my voice shaking. "We can work through this. We've been through worse. You don't have to do this." She shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes but not falling. She was trying to hold it together, trying to convince herself that this was the right decision, but I could see it in her eyes. She was breaking inside, and she didn't know how to fix it. "I'm sorry," she said softly, her voice barely audible. "I'm so sorry, but I've made up my mind. I'm done. I can't keep living this life anymore, and I can't keep living this lie with you." I felt the ground shift beneath me, like I was falling into an abyss. "You can't just walk away from us, Jess. You can't just walk away from everything we've built together," I said, my voice thick with emotion. But she didn't respond. She just stood there looking at me, her face filled with regret. She had made her decision, and there was nothing I could say to change it. "I think you should leave," she said quietly. "I need space, we both do." I could feel the anger rising in me now, burning hotter than the pain in my chest. "You'll regret this," I said, my voice hoarse with emotion. "You won't get away with this. I don't care what's happening with your career, with your firm, but I won't let you just walk away like this, not without consequences." She looked at me, her eyes cold, and for a moment I saw the woman she had become, the one who had pushed me to the edge, the one who had chosen everything else over me. "You don't understand," she said. "This was never just about you. It was about me finding who I am again, and I don't need you to make me feel guilty for that." With that, she turned and walked out of the room, leaving me standing there, in the wreckage of everything I had believed in. I couldn't believe what had just happened. I couldn't believe the woman I had built a life with was really telling me that it was over. But as she left the room, something inside me hardened. I wasn't going to let this be the end. I wasn't going to let her destroy everything we had built without consequences. I woke up the next morning with the same heavy weight pressing down on my chest. It felt like I hadn't slept at all, the night a blur of confusion, anger, and disbelief. The words Jessica had said to me were still echoing in my mind. I want a divorce. They had cut through me like a knife, and I couldn't get rid of the sting. Every time I closed my eyes, I could still see her face, the coldness in her eyes, the way she had dismissed everything we had worked for. I had never thought I'd hear those words from her. Divorce. It was the one word I had always feared. I had never considered it a possibility, not in my worst moments. But now, it felt like it had become my reality, and I had no idea how to face it. I lay in bed for a long time, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of what had happened. Everything felt like a dream, like the world was spinning faster than I could keep up with. Jessica had always been the strong one, the one who had everything figured out. She had always been in control of her career, her life, her destiny. And now, she was the one who had pulled the rug out from under us. She had chosen her career over me, over our marriage. She had betrayed me in the worst possible way, by giving up on us. I knew she had been struggling with the pressure of her job. I knew the stakes were high. The firm she worked for, the clients she had to deal with, they were demanding, relentless, and unforgiving. But I also knew how much she had invested in our relationship, how much she had once said she wanted us to build a life together. But now, it seemed like all of that had been a lie. I got out of bed, the weight of the situation still pressing down on me. I didn't know what to do next. I didn't know where to go from here. But one thing was clear. I couldn't let her get away with this. I couldn't let her walk out of our life without understanding the consequences of what she had done. I spent the next several hours trying to pull myself together, to gather the strength I would need to confront Jessica. I had to do something. I couldn't just sit around and let her make this decision for both of us. I needed to remind her of what we had, of what we had built together. I needed to remind her that she couldn't just throw everything away. I drove to her office. When I arrived, I stood outside the building for a long time, unsure of what I was doing. Should I just go in and demand an explanation? Should I wait for her to come to me? Part of me wanted to let her come back to me on her own terms, but another part of me wanted to force the issue, to make her see what she was about to lose. I finally decided to go in. The receptionist greeted me with a neutral smile, but when she saw my face, she hesitated. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see Jessica Sanders," I said, my voice firm, though I could feel the tension building inside me. "Is she available?" The receptionist looked at me for a moment, clearly sensing the tension, but then nodded. "She's in a meeting right now. Would you like to wait?" I nodded, though I felt my patience thinning. I wasn't here to wait. I needed answers, and I needed them now. I wasn't going to sit in a lobby and let her hide behind the walls of her office while I wallowed in confusion. But before I could say anything, the door to the back office opened and Jessica appeared. She looked at me with a mixture of surprise and something else, something harder, colder. It was like she had put up a wall between us, and I wasn't sure if I could tear it down. "Hey," she said, her voice distant, almost mechanical. "What are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you," I said, my tone firm but not angry. I wasn't going to shout. I wasn't going to let her get away with dismissing me. Now, not later. We need to have this conversation. Jessica's face hardened. "I told you last night that I wanted a divorce. I meant it." I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. "You think I'm just going to let you walk away like that?" I asked, taking a step forward. "You think I'm going to let you destroy everything we've worked for without a fight?" She looked away for a moment, avoiding my gaze. "I'm not destroying anything. You're making this worse than it needs to be," she said, her voice more controlled now, but I could still hear the edge of frustration beneath it. "This is what I need, what I want." "But what about what we want?" I shot back. "What about us, Jessica? What happened to our future? What happened to the things we promised each other when we got married? You can't just throw that all away." She took a deep breath like she was trying to calm herself down. "I didn't throw it away, I just can't do this anymore. The pressure, the expectations. I'm drowning in it. I can't keep pretending everything's fine when it's not. You don't understand. I've been trying to keep it all together, trying to make everything work, but I'm not the same person I was when we got married. And I don't think I can be that person anymore. I need to do this for me." I could feel my heart breaking, but I wasn't going to let her see it. I wasn't going to let her walk out of this marriage without feeling the weight of what she was doing. "So, this is it. You're just giving up?" I asked, my voice thick with emotion. "You're giving up on us, on our life together, just like that?" Jessica's face softened for a moment, but the hardness in her eyes never left. "I'm not giving up, I'm moving on. I need to find myself again, to rebuild my life. And I can't do that if I'm constantly trying to keep this relationship together when it's already falling apart." I shook my head, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "So, what now? You want me to just step aside and watch you walk away with everything? You want to destroy everything we had just so you can feel good about yourself? Is that what you're saying?" She looked at me for a long time, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke. "I'm sorry. I know this hurts you, but I can't keep living a lie. I can't keep pretending like everything's okay when it's not." I stood there for a long time, staring at her, trying to understand what had happened to the woman I had loved, the woman I had married. But in that moment, I realized something. I didn't know her anymore. The person standing in front of me wasn't the woman I had spent my life with. The woman I loved had been replaced by someone who was determined to walk away without looking back, and I wasn't sure I could stop her. "Fine," I said finally, my voice low but steady. "If this is what you really want, then go. But don't think for 1 second that you can just walk away from this without consequences. You won't get away with this, Jessica." Her eyes flickered with something, fear, guilt, maybe even regret, but she didn't say anything. She just nodded, turned, and walked away, disappearing into the office. And in that moment, as the door closed behind her, I knew this was the beginning of the end. There was no turning back now. Jessica had made her decision, and I had made mine. The days following my confrontation with Jessica felt like they were stretching on forever. Each minute seemed longer than the last, each hour a reminder of the immense pain I was carrying inside. My mind kept returning to the same question. How had we gotten here? How had everything we had built together, everything we had worked for, come crashing down so quickly? I tried to fill the void by throwing myself into my work. It felt like the only thing that could keep me from falling apart completely. I found solace in the familiarity of my office, in the busy emails and the endless phone calls that allowed me to forget, even if just for a moment, the weight of my personal life. But no matter how hard I tried to bury myself in work, there was always a reminder that would pull me back to reality. A memory, a lingering thought, the look in Jessica's eyes when she told me she wanted a divorce. It was as if a door had slammed shut between us, and no matter how much I wanted to reach for it, I couldn't open it again. She had said that she needed to find herself, that the pressure of her job and her life had taken a toll on her. But I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to it, something deeper. I had seen the way she acted when we were together, the way she became more and more distant, more focused on her career, more determined to prove herself to everyone around her. It had felt like she was slipping away, like I wasn't enough to keep her grounded. But I still didn't understand. She had always been driven. She had always wanted to succeed. I had supported her, I had cheered her on. So why was it that now, in this moment, she couldn't see what we had built together? Why was it so easy for her to throw it all away? I kept telling myself that I would eventually understand, that eventually she would come to her senses. That maybe, just maybe, there was still hope for us. But deep down, I knew the truth. The truth was that she had already made her choice, and I was no longer part of her plan. The phone calls from her office became more frequent, but less meaningful. They were filled with perfunctory updates and impersonal exchanges, as if the once deep connection we shared had been replaced by business-like formalities. Every time I saw her name on my phone, I felt a mix of anger and sadness, a feeling I couldn't escape. It was late one night when she called again. My phone rang and I glanced at the screen. It was Jessica. For a moment, I hesitated. I had been avoiding her for days, not knowing what to say, not knowing how to face her after everything that had happened. But I couldn't keep running from it. I couldn't keep pretending like I wasn't still invested in our marriage, no matter how much it hurt. I picked up the phone. "Hello," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, though I could feel my heart racing in my chest. "Hey," she replied, her voice softer than I expected. I think we need to talk." I took a deep breath. "About what?" "I know things have been tense between us," she said, her words tentative like she was testing the waters. "But I want to talk about everything. I know I've hurt you, and I don't expect things to go back to normal right away, but I think we need to have a real conversation." I ran my hand through my hair, feeling the exhaustion of the past few days catch up with me. "What's there to talk about, Jessica? You've already made your decision. You've already told me you want a divorce. I don't know what else there is to say." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could hear her breathing like she was weighing her next words carefully. I know I said that, but I don't want things to end this way. I don't want to just walk away from everything we've built without giving us a chance, please. I need to know if there's any chance of saving us." Her words caught me off guard. I had expected her to stick to her decision, to stand firm in her desire to end everything. But now, she was asking for something else, something I wasn't sure I was ready to give her. "I don't know if I can trust you anymore," I said, my voice shaking with the raw emotion I had been holding back for so long. "How can I trust you after everything? You've been hiding things from me, you've been lying to me. And now, you want me to just forget about it all, to pretend like nothing happened." She was silent for a moment, and when she spoke again, her voice was full of regret. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I didn't want to hurt you. But I was so focused on trying to keep everything together, on proving myself at work, that I lost sight of what mattered. I lost sight of us." I shook my head, feeling a knot form in my stomach. "You didn't just lose sight of us, Jessica. You left. You left me here to pick up the pieces while you ran off, chasing something that didn't matter more than our life together." "I wasn't running away," she said softly. "I was trying to find myself. But in doing that, I lost everything that mattered. I lost you. And I don't know if I can fix it, but I want to try. Please, let me try." I felt a flood of conflicting emotions wash over me. On one hand, part of me wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that she could change, that she could see what we had lost and work with me to rebuild it. But the other part of me, the part that had been hurt so deeply, was afraid. I was afraid of falling back into the same cycle, of being deceived again, of being left behind. "I don't know if I can give you that chance," I said quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I can trust you again, and I don't know if I can forgive you." "Please," she whispered. "I'm asking you to give me a chance. Please don't give up on us, not yet." Her words hung in the air, and I felt the weight of them pressing down on me. How could I make this decision? How could I decide if there was still hope for us when everything felt so broken? How could I trust her again after everything? "Let me think about it," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I need time." "Take all the time you need," she replied softly. "I'll be here when you're ready, just please don't give up on me." As I hung up the phone, I sat there for a long time, my mind racing. Could I really give her another chance? Could I forgive her for what she had done? I didn't know. I didn't know if I could ever see her the same way again. But there was a part of me, some small part, that still wanted to believe in her. And that part was the hardest to ignore. The truth was, I was still in love with her. But could love really overcome everything? Could it overcome the lies, the betrayal, the hurt that we had both caused each other? I didn't have the answers, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't ready to give up on her, not yet. But I needed time. Time to figure out what I wanted. Time to figure out if there was a way forward. And time to decide if we could heal from the damage that had already been done. The days following my conversation with Jessica passed in a haze of indecision. My mind was in turmoil, constantly torn between two opposing forces, love and betrayal, hope and anger. I had spent so much time trying to rebuild my life without her, trying to move past the hurt she had caused me, and yet here she was, asking for another chance. She had left me shattered once, and now she was asking me to believe that she could change. Could I really trust her again? Was I foolish enough to risk my heart a second time? Every time I closed my eyes, I could see her face, the way she looked at me when she said she wanted a divorce. The coldness in her eyes had shattered my heart, and it seemed impossible to erase the image of her walking away from me. But at the same time, I couldn't ignore the small voice in the back of my mind that told me there was still love between us. Was that voice the last bit of hope left in me, or was it just a fool's longing for something that had already been lost? The silence between us grew unbearable. Despite her attempts to reach out, I kept my distance. I couldn't bring myself to forgive her, not yet, but I also couldn't bring myself to completely shut her out. I kept thinking about the good times we had shared, the laughter, the adventures, the promises we had made to each other when we first got married. There had been love, real love, between us once. Could we find it again, or was it gone forever? I spent hours in my office, trying to focus on work, but my mind wouldn't let me. Every email I read, every phone call I made, was tainted by the nagging thought that I wasn't addressing the real issue, the pain that had been left in the wake of Jessica's betrayal. Every time I walked into the house, the absence of her presence was deafening. The house felt too quiet, too empty, like something was missing. And in that silence, I found myself questioning everything. A week after our phone conversation, I decided I couldn't keep running from it anymore. I had to face her. I had to decide if there was anything left worth saving. But more than that, I had to ask myself if I was willing to forgive her. Could I put aside the betrayal, the lies, the years of secrecy, and rebuild our life together? Or had we reached the point of no return? That evening, I drove to her office. I had no idea what I was going to say, no plan in mind. I just knew that I had to confront her face to face. I wasn't sure what would come of it, but I couldn't keep waiting for the right time. The right time had passed long ago. When I arrived, I was surprised to see the office lights still on. It was well past business hours, and Jessica was usually home by now. As I stepped inside, I was greeted by the receptionist, who looked up from her desk with a polite smile. "Mr. Thompson," she said, recognizing me immediately. "Can I help you?" "I need to see Jessica," I replied, my voice tight. "Is she here?" The receptionist hesitated for a moment before nodding. "She's in her office. I'll let her know you're here." I nodded and waited, trying to calm the nervous energy bubbling up inside me. A part of me wanted to turn around and leave, but I knew I couldn't. This was it, the moment of truth. Either we would work through this, or we wouldn't. Either we would rebuild what had been broken, or we would walk away for good. A few minutes later, Jessica stepped into the lobby. Her hair was tied back in a loose ponytail, and she was wearing a black blazer over a simple blouse. She looked like the same woman I had married, the confident, ambitious lawyer who had once made me feel like the luckiest man alive. But there was something different about her now, something that had shifted between us that couldn't be undone. She looked at me, her eyes flickering with uncertainty before she spoke. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was quiet, but there was an edge to it, as though she was bracing herself for whatever I had to say. "I needed to see you," I said, taking a step closer. "We need to talk. No more running away from this. No more silence. I need to know what's going on, Jess. I need to know if you really want to fix this." She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she just looked at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of regret and fear. "I don't know if I can fix this," she said softly. "I don't know if we can ever go back to the way things were." "Do you want to?" I asked, my voice quiet but firm. "Do you want to fix this? Do you want to try to rebuild what we had?" She was silent for a long moment, and I could see the struggle inside her. The weight of her decisions, the weight of what we had been through, was too much to carry alone. She looked like she was on the edge of breaking down, but she held herself together, her eyes never leaving mine. "I don't know," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I can go back to who I was before. I don't know if I can ever make it right." My heart ached for her, but I couldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment. "Jess, we can't keep living like this," I said, my voice rising slightly. "We can't keep pretending like everything is fine when it's not. You've hurt me more than I ever thought possible. You've betrayed me, and I don't know if I can forgive you, but I need to know if you're willing to try. Are you willing to fight for this for us?" She looked at me, and for the first time in a long time, I saw something real in her eyes. There was vulnerability, guilt, and a deep longing that made me question everything I thought I knew about her. "I don't want to lose you," she whispered. "I never wanted to hurt you. I made mistakes, so many mistakes, but I'm not ready to let you go." I stood there staring at her, my heart torn in two. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that she was telling me the truth, that she could change, that we could rebuild. But there was still so much anger, so much pain, and I didn't know if I could just let it go. "I don't know, Jess," I said, my voice shaking. "I don't know if I can ever trust you again. I don't know if I can forgive you for everything you've done, but I need to figure that out. And I need time. Time to heal, time to think. I'm not ready to make any decisions yet." She nodded, tears filling her eyes, but she didn't speak. Instead, she reached out to me, her hand trembling as it brushed against mine. "I'll wait," she whispered. "I'll wait for as long as it takes, but please don't give up on me." I felt my chest tighten, my emotions battling inside me. I wanted to walk away, to leave everything behind and never look back. But I also wanted to hold her, to make it all go away, to go back to the way things were. But I knew I couldn't do that, not without facing the truth. "I need time," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "I need to figure out what I want, what's best for me, what's best for us." And with that, I turned and walked out of her office, leaving behind the woman I had loved, the woman who had broken my heart, and the woman I wasn't sure I could ever trust again. The days after our last conversation passed in a blur. I found myself caught in an endless loop of indecision. I would wake up every morning, go through the motions of my day, and by nightfall, I would be back at square one, staring into the void of my own heartache, unsure of what I was supposed to do next. Everywhere I went, I was reminded of Jessica. The house that we had shared, the memories that still lingered in every corner, even the smallest things, like the coffee mugs we had picked out together on one of our weekend trips, felt like a weight on my chest. It was as if the life we had lived together was unraveling before my eyes, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. And yet I couldn't bring myself to walk away completely. I couldn't shut the door on us, on everything we had built. My love for Jessica, however complicated and painful it had become, still lingered deep within me. It was that love, or perhaps the ghost of it, that kept me from making the decision I knew I had to make. I was no longer the man I had been when I first met her. The carefree, hopeful guy who thought love could fix anything. The man who believed in second chances. Now, I was someone who had been burned, someone who had to decide whether to forgive the woman who had broken him. It was late one evening when I received the text. It was simple, but the weight of it hit me harder than anything she had said before. "Can we talk? I need to see you." For a moment, I hesitated. I had been keeping my distance from Jessica, letting the silence between us grow wider, deeper. But now, it was like the silence had reached a breaking point. I couldn't ignore her anymore. I couldn't keep pretending that this was all just going to resolve itself on its own. I replied, "Where?" A moment later, she sent me the address. It was a small cafe on the edge of town, one of those quiet places where you could get lost in your own thoughts. I hadn't been there in years, but I remembered it well. It had been the place where we'd had some of our first real conversations, the place where we had laughed and dreamed of a future together. I knew what this meeting was about. I could feel it in my bones. This was it, the moment when everything would finally come to a head. I didn't know what she was going to say, but I knew I had to face it. I had to face her. When I arrived, the cafe was nearly empty. The soft hum of jazz music played in the background, but it did nothing to quiet the storm raging inside me. I looked around for Jessica, and there she was, sitting at a table near the window, her back turned to me. She hadn't noticed me yet. I stood there for a moment, watching her. She looked the same, yet different. The woman I had married seemed like a stranger, a person I had once known but who had been lost to me. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she wore a simple blouse, her hands folded in front of her, almost as if she was waiting for something, waiting for me to make the next move. When she finally turned around, our eyes met. I could see the vulnerability in her gaze, the sorrow that she hadn't been able to hide. But there was also something else, something darker. It was the realization that no matter what she said, no matter how hard she tried to explain herself, things would never be the same between us. "Hey," she said softly, her voice tentative, like she wasn't sure how to approach me anymore. "Hey," I replied, my voice flat, betraying none of the emotions that were swirling inside me. "You wanted to talk." She nodded, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. "I've been thinking a lot about everything," she said. "About us, about what we've been through and what I've done. And I know I've made a mess of everything, but I need you to understand something." I sat down across from her, watching her closely. "I'm listening." She took a deep breath, her eyes not quite meeting mine. "I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted to destroy what we had. I thought I was doing what was best for me, but I see now that I was wrong. I see now that I've lost everything, and I don't know how to fix it." I clenched my jaw, trying to keep the emotions from flooding to the surface. I had heard her say these things before, but I had never believed her. Could I believe her now? Was it possible to forgive the woman who had betrayed me so completely? "I know I can't take back what I did," she continued, her voice shaking slightly. But I'm asking you not to forgive me, not yet, but to at least hear me out. To understand that I made these choices because I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know how to balance everything, and in the process I pushed you away. I pushed us away. And now I don't know how to make it right." She paused, and I could see the tears welling up in her eyes. For a moment I almost felt pity for her. But then the anger, the betrayal returned, and I quickly shoved that feeling aside. "You don't get it, do you?" I said, my voice tight with emotion. "You don't get how much you've hurt me. You don't understand how much trust you've shattered. You can't just walk back into my life and expect everything to be fine again. You can't erase what you've done." She winced at my words, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. "I know," she whispered, "and I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, but I can't change what's happened. I can't undo the damage. All I can do is ask you for a chance to prove that I'm still the woman you fell in love with. Please, don't give up on me." I looked at her, the woman who had once been everything to me, and I felt something break inside. It wasn't anger. It wasn't hatred. It was resignation. I had spent so much time trying to hold on to the past, trying to save a relationship that was already broken. And now, I had to face the truth. I couldn't keep fighting for something that had already been lost. "Jessica," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I can move forward with you after everything that's happened." She looked at me, her face falling, and for a moment I saw the vulnerability again, the woman who was still holding on to the remnants of our love. But deep down, I knew the truth. She had made her choices, and so had I. The damage had been done, and it couldn't be undone. "I don't want to give up," she said, her voice breaking, "but I will if that's what you want." I took a deep breath, staring at her for a long moment. I wanted so badly to reach across the table and hold her, to tell her that everything would be okay. But I couldn't. I couldn't pretend anymore. The trust we once shared was gone, and I didn't know if I could ever rebuild it. "I don't want to give up either," I said finally, my voice hoarse with emotion. "But I need time. I need time to figure out if we can fix this, if it's even worth fixing." She nodded slowly, her eyes filled with tears. "I understand. I'll wait for as long as it takes, but please, don't shut me out." I stood up, my chest tight with the weight of the decision I had just made. "I'm not shutting you out. I'm just trying to figure out what's best for me, and I need to do that on my own." With that, I turned and walked away, leaving Jessica sitting there, alone at the table, her face buried in her hands. I didn't know if we would ever find our way back to each other. But one thing was certain, the path forward wouldn't be easy, and the road to forgiveness, if there was a road at all, was going to be long and painful. But I had made my choice. I had to take the time I needed, and I had to find a way to heal.